Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 1 began with the fight between Keel and the Bofurin already underway, seeing Haruka Sakura and his allies already in combat. Akihiko Nairai is seen cowering at first, before seemingly trying to run away in fear. However, he's ambushed by some Keel members, who are going to beat him while he's down as Sakura realizes this. Before the scene fully played out, focus shifted to a point in time prior to this fight beginning. Nairai explained that, like Hayato Suwa, all he knows about Keel is their logo and rumors of their borderline criminal activities. Sakura followed this up by saying that their job was simple, only needing to drag Nagato back in order to achieve victory. They then arrived at Keel's headquarters, which Masaki Anze confirmed. As Sakura questioned how they could enter, he got angry with Nairai for his phone going off, demanding an explanation. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 1 saw them interrupted by Kyotaro Tsujishita, who simply kicked the lock off the door. They were greeted by some Keel members when they entered, with Nagato unconscious and beaten at their feet. Anze charged, but Sakura stopped him, trying to speak with Keel first. After they refused, Sakura made his intentions clear. This prompted dozens of other armed Keel members to appear. While some of the Bofurin members were worried about this, Taiga Tsujura and Mitsuki Kiryu were unbothered, saying it was only 3 or 4 heads a person. Sakura boldly commented he'll handle all this on his own, which sparked a fire in the other Bofurin members. One of the Keel members, seemingly the leader of this detachment, commented on the air around the Bofurin guys changing before ordering the others to charge in. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 1 then saw the fighting begin, with the Bofurin holding their ground. Suwa primarily focused on protecting Nairai, while Sakura and Anze went to grab Nagato away from the Keel leaders. However, Anze was easily dealt with by the leadership, getting a severe head injury as a result. Keel's VIPs then appeared, with the first challenging Sakura directly. Others then entered to target the other strongest Bofurin members present, those being Tsujura, Kiryu, Suwa, and Tsujishita. The Keel leader then announced that round 2 would start, infuriating Sakura with how all of the Keel members were smirking. Sakura's opponent was introduced as Takaru Kongo, while Tsujura's was Shiyu Kurishima. Tsujishita's was Taishir Mogami, while Kiryu's was Renji Kaga, and lastly, Suwa's was Hansuki Tone. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 1 then saw the lesser Bofurin members start to fall as they concerned themselves with keeping each other safe. Sakura tried to go help them, but Kongo wouldn't let him. Other Keel members then began ganging up on Sakura, landing a hit to his head which immediately began bleeding. The apparent Keel leader then revealed that distracting Bofurin's best removed the advantage they had, making it clear this was his plan. Focus then shifted to Nairai, who analyzed the situation and came to a similar conclusion while recognizing he was holding Suwa back. Nairai then mused on his involvement in Shishidorin, calling himself lame while remembering Sakura's words to him about his lameness. The scene which the episode opened on then played out, revealing that Nairai decided he shouldn't run away even if he couldn't fight like the others. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 1 saw him tackle a Keel member before immediately getting pummeled by another, leading to those with weapons ganging up on him as seen earlier. Nairai apologized to Sakura as they went to strike him, but they were interrupted by a massive attack landing on a Keel member. This was revealed to be Rinkaji, who showed up with Takeshi Inomoto and Yuto Kusumi, who expressed gratitude they showed up in time. Keel's leader acknowledged Kaji and Ko's arrival, with Kaji glaring at him likewise. The Keel leader tried reasoning with Kaji, seemingly in an attempt to get him and the other Keel members to leave. However, Kaji said they were involved given the role they played as protectors, which included the people of Furin. As Kaji doubled down on their involvement, some of the Keel members were seen shying away from the fight with Kaji and Ko's arrival. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 1 saw Keel's leader motivate them by threatening them, as Kaji and Ko began taking down their attackers swiftly in turn. Kaji had Inomoto and Kusumi handle the general brawl, while Kaji said he'd target Keel's leader. Kusumi quickly took Nairai outside and told him to wait there, making Nairai feel even more inferior likewise. Inomoto then told the other Bofurin members to focus on the fights in front of them while they supported. As Kaji approached Keel's leader, Sakura said to hold off since the leader was his, like Kaji said to him. Kaji then interrupted Sakura's fight, asking if he understood his current situation. He told Sakura that there was more to consider than beating up the enemy leader, which is why he was struggling against a nobody like Kongo. Kaji reminded Sakura of his role as a grade captain, telling him to do what he needed to do while he handled the leader as the episode ended. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 1 is a fantastic start to the series, diving right into the action and wasting no time getting there.
Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 2 began with a focus on Kaji, who confronted the apparent leader of the Keel group. The leader lectured Kaji about their being similar and how he thought they'd get along, with Kaji silently listening the whole time. The leader continued to say fear is the best way to gain power over others, calling being feared the best feeling. He assumed Kaji felt the same way, likewise asking why he and the Bofurin pretend to be good people. He asserted that Kaji belonged on his side, saying Kaji should join Keel if he beat him as he was introduced as Shingo Natori. Kaji interrupted him here, saying that people like him had no right to talk about Furin. Focus then shifted to Haruka Sakura's fight against Takuru Kongo, with Kongo growing worried at Sakura's sudden change in demeanor. He ordered some fodder to charge at him, with Sakura swiftly and effortlessly dealing with them. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 2 then saw Sakura approach Kongo, who was clearly terrified and knocked out with a single punch from Sakura. As he challenged some Keel bystanders, focus shifted to Taiga Tsujura's fight against Shiyu Kirishima. Taiga said the hits he was taking were his atonement, as he was both unable to support his classmates and had to be saved by his upperclassmen. Kirishima angrily threw a punch as focus shifted to Kyotaro Tsujishita. His opponent, Taishir Mogami, said he was starting to get bored of Tsujishita's toughness and wanted to end this. Each dodged some attacks from the other until Mogami landed a kick by spinning on the wooden plank he was wielding. However, Tsujishita caught his feet as focus returned to Tsujura, who had caught Kirishima's fist. As each counterattacked, they began getting more into the fight and looking more like themselves while trading subsequent blows. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 2 saw each deliver knockout blows to their opponents shortly afterwards, with focus then shifting to Mitsuki Kiryu's fight against Renji Kaga. The two initially traded verbal jabs before Kaga rushed at Kiryu, asking him why he isn't embarrassed for being wimpy and girly. Kiryu was unbothered by this until Kaga began talking about the weak having to follow the strong. Kiryu then said he must be way too exhausting for girls and was an embarrassing person. Realizing he hit a nerve, Kiryu continued to point out that Raga was weak since he was following someone else's orders. This incented Raga to attack in even more of an uncoordinated frenzy while trying to justify why he wasn't weak. Kiryu then called Raga an ignorant frog living in a well, before quickly ending the fight with two light but well-placed hits. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 2 then shifted focus to Takashi Inomoto and Yuto Kusumi helping out the General Bofurin fighters. Sakura also began lending a hand, clearly still upset it took him so long to realize his priorities and play his role. He then met up with Tsujura, Kiryu, Inomoto, and Kusumi, warning all not to let their guards down despite the battle swinging into their favor. He added to shout if they needed help and that he'd make sure he's there next time, which impressed Inomoto and Kusumi. They all then charged into battle, where Hayato Sua's opponent Hansuki Tone landed at Sakura's side after Sua sent him flying. A calm but clearly angry Sua approached Tone without saying a word to Sakura, glaring at his enemy all the while. Tone tried throwing a punch, but Sua knocked him out with a strong kick to the nose. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 2 saw Sua go to throw additional punches, but Sakura stopped him. Sua commented on being irritated at how Keel treated them, to which Sakura said he was also upset but at himself. This clearly resonated with Sua, who then returned to his normal disposition and applauded the truth of Sakura's words. As Sua walked away, he looked back at Sakura and said he truly was no match for him. Focus then shifted back to Kaji's fight, where he was on the defensive but managing to get some hits in. Natori commented on Kaji looking like he wanted to go berserk, saying that his true beastly nature makes him unfit to be a hero. Kaji agreed as a brief flashback began showing that Kaji often loses control of himself in a fight. While Notori celebrated this, Kaji commented on how his inability to control these urges made him feel inhuman. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 2 saw him implicitly credit Toma Hiragi, Hajime Yamimiya, and others for teaching him how to be a human before asking who Kiel's true leader was. Notori ignored this, instead promising to make Kaji a beast as nature intended him to be. Kaji took control of the fight briefly, but Notori eventually cornered and began beating him. This caused Kaji's demeanor to change, seemingly starting his transformation into the beast he spoke of. Two traded heavy blows briefly before Kaji knocked Notori out, who was happy to see Kaji like this. Kaji regained control of himself after, with the Bofurin's victory fully achieved. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 2 ended with Anze and Nagato speaking briefly and reconciling their differences thanks to Sakura's and Kaji's help.
Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 3 began with Nagato explaining how he got involved with Kiel. Right after his and Anzai's middle school graduation ceremony, he found someone being bullied and having his money taken. Remembering when Anzai once stood up for him, he tried doing the same. Unfortunately, this only led to him getting beaten up. A Kiel member arrived and saved him. It was Shingo Notori. Notori showed respect and admiration for Nagato over what he did, praising his mindset specifically. He said he was looking for people like him to join his team, as focus shifted to his first Kiel meeting. Someone was then being beaten up for trying to leave Kiel, with Nagato trying to convince Notori to stop it. He instead turned around and punched Nagato. Calling him easy to control and the perfect sucker, who'd never be able to leave Kiel. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 3 then began a brief montage of Nagato being forced to bring Kiel ever-increasing piles of money. When he couldn't pay it, he was beaten up in exchange for the missing cost. This desperation is what drove Nagato to begin purse snatching, thus setting the current events in motion. Anzai blamed his weakness in the present, to which Nagato said he wouldn't have gone with him anyway since he's such a horrible person. Nagato explained that he only wanted to emulate Anzai, whom he called cool and strong. Anzai simply hugged him in response, as a flashback to the two of them and Miyotsucha playing as children was shown. A young Anzai was shown in awe at Nagato's ability to not flinch at his own pain since no one else was hurt, saying he was always cool and strong in the present. Focus then shifted to Akihiko Nirei waking up as he was being carried home by Taiga Tsugira. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 3 saw Hayato Suo approach Nirei and flick him in the forehead, telling him not to be so reckless like he was earlier. However, the two of them and Mitsuki Kiryu then acknowledged that Nirei's decision to contact their upperclassmen is what saved the day. Haruka Sakura was then shown to be walking behind everyone, with Nirei and his other close friends stopping to wait for him. Nirei then praised Sakura for the job he did as grade captain. But Sakura countered that he actually did an awful job when considering how everything went. This caught the attention of the others, save for Kiyotaro Sugishita, who kept on walking. Anzai and Nagato then expressed their thanks to Sakura and their pride in him. The others also commented that their injuries were their own faults, not his, with the others' words also reassuring. Sakura Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 3 saw everyone gather around Sakura, reassuring him that he had nothing to worry about or to blame himself for. Sakura then got a new feeling, trying to figure out what it was and what was causing it. Ren Kaji, Takeshi Enomoto, and Yuto Kusumi then discussed Kaji's early days as grade captain, which saw a similar situation occur. Kaji instead asked their opinion on Kiel, revealing his suspicions that Notori wasn't the true leader. Focus then jumped ahead to that night, where Sakura and the others went to report to Bofurin's leader, Hajime Umemiya. Despite the tension, Umemiya was unbothered, deciding they should all eat together after. Anzai was shocked to see this was all that would come of it, with Umemiya forgiving all the transgressions Anzai tried to assign to himself. Realizing the problem, he offered Nagato a plate of food in order to help Anzai feel like Nagato wasn't only his friend, but theirs.
元気ねえな。
別に。
Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 3 saw Umemiya ask Sakura what was wrong, to which he said he was disappointed in himself for not living up to his promise.
そいつらのことが好きだからだよ。
However, Umemiya countered that his inability to move when he saw his friends getting hurt proved that he cared for them. This angered Sakura, who started to blush and shout. After they all parted ways, Umemiya and Toma Hiragi both mused on how strong Sakura would one day become.
あいつは強くなるな。
Sakura, Anzai, and Nagato then met up with Tsuchiya, where she began hitting Nagato and calling him a moron. She then cried while saying they were both so beaten up before welcoming them back sincerely. Sakura tried leaving during this.
ありがとう。Sakura!
But she asked him her name before he left and thanked him after. Focus then shifted back to Kiel's warehouse, where all of its members were still unconscious, save for one who stood up. Episode 3 saw them comment on coming here to watch the fight with Furin before asking them why they lost. He added that Furin had gotten weaker, even if they were first years, before saying this was the end of Kiel as he left. The episode ended with this character removing his Kiel hoodie, some of his tattoos being seen, while he said he now had a great card to play against Furin.
ごめん、起こした？
Windbreaker Season 2. Episode 4 began with a focus on Haruka Sakura's class in school, where he still hadn't shown up for the day, despite it being lunchtime. Nirei then called Sakura, who answered hung up immediately, as Nirei said he sounded sick. After school, Nirei and Hayato Suo brought Sakura supplies. After realizing how rundown Sakura's apartment building was, they commented on how it also seemed like a place for single residents. Suo opened the door to Sakura's apartment without knocking, but found it to be quite empty and dirty inside. As Suo joked about Sakura possibly being dead, he barged out from another room, yelling about the noise they were making, causing him to weakly stumble against the wall. Suo commented on Sakura having it rough before ushering him back into his bed. This led them to realize Sakura lived alone, offering to get him medicine or food if he needed it. Windbreaker Season 2. Episode 4 saw Sakura then say he wasn't hungry, which caused Suo to worry. Nirei wondered what caused Sakura to live like this before handing him the supplies which the others got for him. He also asked Sakura to rely on them more, especially since he lived on his own. Sakura responded by saying it wasn't a big deal and that he has always been on his own. Nirei tried to object to this, but Suo said they should leave for the day. After leaving, he argued with Suo, who said he felt Sakura truly has been alone his whole life. He likewise argued that Sakura didn't know how to take help from friends because he still didn't fully understand them and was still getting used to having them. Suo instead suggested checking in on him again tomorrow if he still wasn't back in school. Nirei countered that while he understood, he wanted to show Sakura that his support system was there.
役に立ちたいんです。
Windbreaker Season 2. Episode 4 saw Nirei add that he wanted to help Salura, even if it was just a little bit, as the two were approached by Kotoa Tachibana. Focus then returned to Sakura, who saw that the supplies he was given had notes from his friends inside. This shocked and bothered Sakura, who began to say he was always fine doing things by himself in the past. He then remembered Hajime Umemiya's words to him about why his body didn't move. He rejected the idea that caring for his friends was why, but was also unable to come to a different conclusion. Tachibana then entered his apartment to bring him food from her restaurant, as well as other supplies. She spoke with Sakura about his living alone and not having much in the apartment. She then teased him about his struggles with grasping friendship, saying he simply didn't understand it. Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 4 saw him add that he didn't want to be unable to control his body due to his feelings for his friends. Tachibana suggested finding a way around it, such as delegating people who can act on his behalf. However, He rejected this, saying it was a personal issue. To prove her point, she took away his food and explained how he wouldn't be able to make the meal she brought him.
になったから体が動かなくなっちゃった問題について悩んでたとか
Likewise, Naira, Suo, and the others acted on his behalf to get him medicine, water, and food. She added that others doing these things for him allowed him to do other things simultaneously. She acknowledged that asking for help was scary, as focus shifted to the next morning. At school, Sakura visited Renkaji to ask for advice when the other second years saw Sakura and sang his praises.
立派な先輩じゃねえか。
うるせえぞお前ら。そんな
Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 4. Then the two head to the roof, where Sakura asked Keiji how he's able to rely on others so much and why he can't. He answered that he relied on others because he simply needs to. Sakura argued this was equivalent to admitting you're weak, but Keiji countered that it was simply being truthful about oneself. He furthered that Sakura was scared of being rejected by others. Sakura thought to himself that he had gotten over this, but realized he had started to care again since making his new friends. Kaji furthered that his friends already knew he was scared of rejection, equating his recent behavior to a cat or dog's behavior when afraid.
ビビるとこっちを威嚇してくるだろう。あれだ、猫。
Kaji added that since Sakura couldn't read others' minds, he should stop worrying about rejection. Kaji also said he understood how Sakura felt, which is why he could tell him to believe in his friends. Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 4 then revealed Umemiya and Toma Hiragi were also present, applauding Kaji for his words. After punching Umemiya, who wasn't upset at all, Kaji ran off in fear.
さっきの話。
Umemiya then validated Kaji's words to Sakura, adding his own thoughts as well. He urged Sakura to trust in Kaji and his friends without worry. The episode ended by revealing Hiragi once had the same conversation with Kaji, who was working through the same issues as Sakura is.
納豆ある？
あるわけないでしょ
Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 5 began with a stylized scene of Haruka Sakura walking a tightrope. He said this was the only way he could prove he was himself, adding that he can't fall off no matter what, since no one would ever save him. He furthers about everything he'd gotten used to, clearly a metaphor for how society had ostracized him and convinced him of what life was. However, he realized that this wasn't the only path in life, and began longing for other means of living. A plant was seen blooming as he said this, with focus shifting to his classmates at school that day, wondering if he'd show up. Sakura then arrived, with the others happy to see him. Akihiko Nirei then realized something was wrong, and asked him what it was. Sakura remained silent as a stylized scene of him preparing to jump off the tightrope appeared. Remembering Hajime Umemiya's words about jumping into friendship with everything he had, Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 5 saw him enter the classroom. He then explained to everyone how he had grown accustomed to living life on his own, and thought it was what he had to do. He added that he took out his frustration on them for not being able to do everything himself, apologizing while calling himself weak and lame, and saying they should be disappointed in him. As Sakura jumped off the tightrope, he apologized to the others for the trouble he may cause them, like with what happened the other day. The others were silently shocked at this, with Kyotaru Sugishita interrupting by kicking Sakura's back and forcing him into the classroom. This inspired the others to jokingly hit Sakura while telling him to stop speaking like that. They all made it clear that they knew who he truly was all along, and considered him their friend anyway. In the stylized tightrope world, a faceless Sakura was seen on the ground, with the darkness replaced by a white light. He saw Hayato Suo and the rest of his friends nearby, who helped him up off the ground. Windbreaker, Season 2, Episode 5 saw Sakura comment on how light his body felt and how easy he could breathe, shocked that a place like this existed. He said he wanted to stay here, as focus returned to reality. Suo reaffirmed what they all had been saying up to that point, with Masaki Anzai saying they were all hanging out together as a group after school. However, something seemed to be bothering Nirei, which Suo realized and pressed him about. Nirei shrugged it off, But there was clearly something wrong. Focus then shifted to the group's hangout after school, where they flooded Kotoha Tachibana's restaurant to eat. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 5 saw Sakura apologize to Kotoha about yesterday, shocking her to the point she thought he still had a fever. The others then tried reciprocating Sakura's confession to them, sharing all the lame parts of their personality. Suo then took the opportunity to drive home that everyone was like Sakura in having a weak or pathetic side. He added that likewise, it's nothing to be embarrassed about since everyone was like that. Suo followed this up with a joke about being scared of pastries, when Nire revealed that he actually hated natto or fermented soybeans. Suo tried playing it off, but it became obvious that this was the truth. Sakura then began laughing over the struggle that ensued, which stopped everyone dead in their tracks as they turned to him. He grew embarrassed likewise, prompting the others to laugh, while Kotoha mused on how right Sakura was to choose Furin after all. Windbreaker Season 2 Episode 5 saw Umemiya arrive at Kotoha's restaurant with Toma Hiragi. The former wanted to join in the fun, but the latter forbade it after his interference that morning. Tasuku Tsubakino was also with them, waving at and making eye contact with Sakura as the trio walked by the door. Focus then shifted to the group back at school sometime later, with Umemiya ordering those who didn't have errands or patrols to gather on the rooftop. Hiragi explained there was no purpose other than ensuring the teams had a chance to fraternize with each other despite their divisions. Sakura then ran into Tsubakino, shocked to learn that they were actually male. Tasuku Tsubakino then began gushing over Sakura's overall looks and aesthetic, with the latter making a good impression on the former by being accepting of them. Tsubakino then introduced Sakura to his vice captains, Seiryu and Uryu Sakaki. Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 5 then saw Tsubakino say they were in love with Umemiya, with Sakura shocked by the affection. Tsubakino confirmed this to be true before calling him innocent and thanking him for reacting so straightforwardly. Tsubakino and the Sakaki brothers then departed, with the former asking Sakura on a date as the episode ended. Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 6 began with a flashback to Tasuku Tsubakino's youth. He explained he was always fascinated by cute and pretty things, but had never told anyone about it. He said this was so his abnormal self could live in another world. Focus then returned to the present, where Haruka Sakura and Tsubakino were on their date. Hayato Suo and Akihiko Nire were also present, with the latter asking where they were going. Tsubakino explained they were visiting an old man named Ito, whose wife passed away a year ago, in order to check up on him. Suo asked what they had to do, but Tsubakino said it was as simple as spending time with him and helping out with chores. Ito was shown to be spirited and happy, and also quite close with Tsubakino. Ito commented on the unique features of the first-year trio before telling a story about his wife. Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 6 then saw Tsubakino, Suo, and Nire begin helping Ito with some chores. After looking lost for a second, Ito gave him a task as well, with Sakura stumbling into a very full closet. They all then ate food together, where Tsubakino suggested that Ito and he also go on a date soon, since the weather was getting nice. The conversation also revealed that the clothes Sakura had found were his wife's, which he decided to keep. Sakura and Ko departed after several hours, with Tsubakino expressing joy that Ito seemed to be in high spirits. However, he also expressed a desire to get him to a point where he was genuinely having fun again. He explained that he owed a lot to Ito and his wife for loving him for who he truly was. This prompted another flashback to Tsubakino's youth, where he hid his true feelings and preferences in order to fit in with other boys his age. Episode 6 saw him meet a stylishly dressed Ito one day, while walking home from school. Ito's outfit left an impression on Tsubakino, who went with Ito back to his home and met his wife, Yui. The pair noticed he seemed upset or bothered by something, with Tsubakino explaining he found her clothes pretty. Ito invited Tsubakino to come by again and see Yui's stylish clothes, which led to him spending significant time with the couple. One day, he walked in on Yui applying lipstick and getting ready. She asked him what he thought, to which he said he didn't know since he was a boy. After she left the room, He reached for her lipstick, but hesitated. However, she saw this and encouraged him to try it, with Ito seeing this after and saying he looked good. Tsubakino began crying after realizing how happy he was about this, questioning why he thought it was so pretty and why he wasn't normal. Windbreaker Season 2. Episode 6 saw him lament having to lie to his friends or family and express a desire to be normal by liking what everyone else likes. Yui instead asked if he knew what high heels were, explaining that they were once considered men's shoes. She also explained that makeup once lacked its contemporary feminine connotations. She said that while the distinction between man and woman was important, it was only one small part of a person. Ito furthered that the origins of things like high heels and makeup weren't based on gender, but on aesthetics. Yui then said that he shouldn't look at what he likes as being a boy or a girl, but simply as liking it because of who he is. Ito furthered that normal is an ambiguous concept which always changes, and that he should do what he likes instead. Yui and Ito then said they loved Tsubakino for loving what he loves by being who he is and wants to be. Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 6 then returned to the present, where Tsubakino said they helped him realize he wasn't alone anymore. Likewise, he said it was now his turn to do that for Ito. Nirei began crying after hearing this story, and immediately signed himself, Suo, and Sakura up to help however they could. Tsubakino was excited to hear this, calling them all such great child, before saying they should go back tomorrow. Upon returning the next day, they began looking at Ito's photo albums. This led to Tsubakino explaining Sakura's penchant for getting embarrassed by romance. However, Sakura explained that the photo of Yui and Ito, which highlighted this aspect of his behavior, reminded him of how Tsubakino looks when talking to Umemiya. Tsubakino coyly thanked him for saying he looked that cute, but stopped when realizing Ito had begun crying at Sakura's words. Windbreaker Season 2, Episode 6 saw him explain he had been questioning if Yui was truly happy since she died, given their marriage was an arranged one. Likewise, Sakura's words clearly reassured him of these thoughts, which had been bothering him. Tsubakino also shared his thoughts that Yui truly did love her, as did Nirei and Suo in the episode's final scenes.